it seems like everyone's got an opinion on how to give, a really killer presentation.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's like storytelling and body language, and then, of course, got to have good slide design.
It's a lot.
It's a lot to think about. And sometimes I think we overcomplicate things.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Sometimes the simplest techniques are the most powerful.
Exactly. And today we're going to be talking about something so simple, yet so effective. Highlighting. But I'm not just talking about making your slides look pretty.
Right. It's really about, guiding your audience's attention.
Yes.
Making sure that they see what you want them to see when you want them to see it.
It's like
Have you ever thought about it? Like you're sitting in a presentation, maybe your mind's wandering a little.
Oh, for sure.
And then suddenly, bam! Something on a slide grabs you.
Oh, yeah.
What was it? What did the presenter do to make that happen?
I've definitely had those moments where it's like a spotlight just shines on that point.
Yeah, and a lot of times that comes down to how our brains are wired. We're drawn to contrast, and that's why color is such a powerful highlighting tool.
Okay, so color. But hasn't everyone seen those, rainbow slides?
Yeah.
Where there's so much color, it's distracting.
Right, and that's why it's about using color strategically.
Okay.
Not just slapping on every shade in the rainbow.
Right.
So think about contrast. If you have a light background, using a nice, dark, rich color as your highlight color, like a really deep blue or a red, that will make it pop.
Okay.
Now, if you flip that, like on a dark background, lighter, brighter colors stand out.
Oh, interesting.
It's all about that visual difference.
So what you're saying is if I'm using a dark theme for my slides, I should be highlighting with a lighter, brighter color.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's about creating that hierarchy for the eye.
Okay, that makes sense.
Leading the eye where you want it to go.
Interesting. So it's not just about picking your favorite color. It's about picking the right color for the job.
Yeah.
Okay, what about bolding and underlining? I feel like sometimes I want to emphasize everything.
Oh, yeah.
Because it all feels important.
It does. It does. But think about this.
Yeah.
If everything is emphasized, then nothing is emphasized.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right. So overusing bold or underlining, it actually weakens the impact.
So how do you know what to bold and underline?
You got to be strategic.
Okay.
Bold, key phrases, headlines, or impactful statistics.
Okay.
Those short bursts of emphasis, that's where bolding really shines. Now, underlining, use it sparingly.
Okay.
A single word or a short phrase within a sentence.
Oh, okay.
That can pack a punch.
It's about picking your battles. I like that.
Yes.
Choose your moments.
Yes.
But sometimes it feels like just, bolding or underlining isn't enough.
And you're right. Yeah. Sometimes the best highlighting isn't even about color at all. It's about size and placement. Think about it this way. You have a key point on your slide. You just make it bigger.
Oh.
And that immediately draws the eye. It's
yeah, that's so simple, but it makes so much sense.
It is. And where you put that on the slide also really matters.
Okay, so tell me about that, placement.
Our eyes are naturally drawn to certain areas of the slide.
Okay.
So if you have multiple points, think about putting the most important one higher up on the slide or even right in the center.
Oh, okay.
It's about using the space intentionally to guide the viewer's gaze.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've covered color, bolding, underlining, and even playing with the size and placement of the text. It's like we're building this toolbox for guiding attention.
Exactly.
But presentations aren't just about static points, right? They're about taking the audience on a journey.
That's a great point, and highlighting can absolutely help with that.
Okay, so how so?
Think about it like creating visual signposts for your audience, kind of signaling when you're moving from one idea to the next.
I like that. So it's not just about highlighting individual words or phrases, it's about highlighting transitions.
Exactly.
And the overall flow.
Let's say you're talking about the challenges of a situation. And then you're going to present the solutions.
Right.
Highlighting that word solutions in a different color or maybe making it a little bit larger can really help people follow along.
It's almost like you're creating this visual roadmap for your audience so they don't get lost.
Yeah, but here's where things get interesting.
Okay.
And this is where a lot of people, kind of stumble. We've talked about how our brains are wired for contrast, right?
Right.
But there's a flip side to that.
Okay.
If you overload your audience with too much highlighting, it loses its effectiveness.
It's like that student who's got the highlighter.
Yes.
And the whole page is yellow.
Exactly. It's tempting to highlight everything that seems important. But remember, if everything's emphasized, nothing is emphasized.
Right.
So how do you find that balance then?
Yeah. How do you know what to highlight and what to just leave alone?
I think a good rule of thumb is the 80-20 principle.
Okay.
Focus on highlighting that 20% of your information. That delivers 80% of the value.
Yeah.
Highlight just enough to guide attention and let the rest of the content speak for itself.
Okay. I'm definitely guilty of over-highlighting sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
So I have to ask about animations.
Okay.
I've always had a love-hate relationship with them. I mean, they can be so cheesy.
They can be. They have a reputation for being overused and distracting.
For sure.
But used subtly.
Sorry.
They can be incredibly powerful highlighting tools.
Tell me more.
Okay, so imagine you're presenting a key point on your slide.
Okay.
And as you start talking about it, it gently fades in.
Okay.
Or a very subtle highlight animation appears around it.
Oh, I see.
It's like you're underlining it in real time.
Yeah.
Drawing your audience's attention to exactly where you want it.
It's a lot more subtle than having everything appear on the slide at once.
Exactly. The animation should enhance the presentation, not dominate it.
Right.
It should be slow, smooth, almost unnoticeable.
You've said subtle a few times now.
Yeah.
Why is that so important?
Because the goal of any highlighting technique, whether it's color or size or animation, is to support your message, not overshadow it.
Okay.
If the animation is too flashy or too distracting, it's going to pull the audience's attention away from what you're saying.
Makes sense.
Which defeats the whole purpose.
It's like adding too much spice to a dish.
Ooh, I like that.
A little bit can enhance the flavor.
Yeah.
Too much can overwhelm it.
Exactly. So it's all about finding that sweet spot where the highlighting enhances the presentation without becoming the main attraction.
I used to avoid animations completely.
I heard that.
But now I can see how they could be really useful. If you do it tastefully.
And strategically, right?
Yes, strategically.
That's the key.
Okay. So
it's not about using them just for the sake of using them.
Yeah.
It's about understanding their strengths and weaknesses and choosing the right tool for the job.
We've covered a lot.
Yeah.
From color and bolding to size and placement and now even animations.
Yeah.
Highlighting is about so much more than just making things look pretty.
Absolutely. It's about understanding your message and using these techniques to guide your audience's attention to what you want them to remember.
And being intentional.
Exactly.
With all of those visual choices.
Yes. Treat your slides as strategic communication tools.
Okay.
They help you connect with your audience on a deeper level.
This has been so eye-opening.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
I feel like I have a whole new perspective on highlighting.
Yeah.
So I want to leave our listeners with a question to think about. Now that we've learned all about these different ways to, highlight things, what's one thing you would change in your next presentation to make your message really stick?
That's a great question. What resonated with you the most from our conversation today?
It's so hard to pick just one.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's the idea of using animation strategically.
Okay.
I've always kind of stayed away from animations.
Yeah.
But now I can see how, like, a well-placed animation can really add that extra emphasis.
It's those little touches that just elevate your presentation.
Yeah.
And, highlighting isn't just for presentations.
Oh, absolutely.
You think about, like, writing an important email.
Oh, yeah.
You might bold a deadline or highlight a call to action.
Right.
Or even if you're designing a website, you can use color and placement to draw attention to certain elements.
Right, like a button or something.
Exactly. It's all about guiding attention and making sure your message is clear.
Regardless of what you're,
Exactly.
putting out there.
And we do it in our everyday conversations, too.
Really?
Yeah, think about it. We might raise our voice to emphasize a word.
Oh, that's true.
We use hand gestures
Yeah.
to draw attention to a certain point.
It's so interesting how these principles apply, everywhere.
It's like it's ingrained in us.
Yeah. So really highlighting is about understanding how our brains work.
Yes.
And then using that to communicate better.
Absolutely. Whether you're giving a presentation, writing an email, designing a website, or just talking to a friend.
Right.
Being mindful of how you highlight information makes a big difference.
I think the takeaway here is that highlighting is a really powerful tool.
It is.
That can be applied in so many ways.
And anyone can get better at it.
Yeah.
Just got to remember the basic principles and try different techniques until you find what works for you.
This has been a fascinating deep dive.
I agree.
And I hope everyone listening feels empowered to, use these techniques.
Me too.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.
And keep those highlighters handy.
Absolutely.